Hi, there's 10 past 7. Good to have you with us this morning. Now, when Labour MP Chris Bryant had a shorter than usual haircut, he never imagined that it would end up saving his life. Now, this short haircut meant that his husband was able to spot a mole that was on his head.
So Chris was urged to see a doctor who diagnosed it as a potentially deadly melanoma. And Chris joins us now from South Wales. Good to speak to you this morning. Goodness me, I mean, it really was the haircut that saved your life, wasn't it?
Yes, well, that and my husband, I guess, and also the fact that I knew, well, it was weird. We spotted it, or Jared spotted it before Christmas, but on the 21st of Christmas, I know, because we got the photo I think you've got, and there was this little thing on the back of my head. It was only visible because I'd had my hair cut shorter than usual. And it was two sort of colours, a bit of sort of yellow and a bit of red. But I couldn't see all of that, really, apart from the photo that Jared took of it. And we didn't think any more about it. And then on my birthday, January the 11th, I was driving past the doctor's surgery down there, and I thought, you know what, I'll just pop in and check. Oh, I'm so glad I checked. You know, there's part of you that's always thinking, I don't want to waste the doctor's time and things like that, but actually, you've got to put that out of your head. The doctor was absolutely happy to see it. He said, I don't think that is bad, but just in case, I'm going to send you to the dermatologist. 5 days later, I was in front of the dermatologist. 5 days after that, and she said, I think that's a melanoma, which is a particularly nasty form of skin cancer. And 5 days later, she was cutting it out. And then when the biopsy came back, the test, they said that's a stage 3B melanoma, which there's 4 stages of melanoma. And I mean, I felt punched in the stomach. I felt freezing cold for 2 days. I thought, I'm not going to make it to Easter. I'm going to die by the end of the week. Every single thing in my body that itched or twinged, I thought was going to be some other form of cancer, and I was going to be riddled with it. And, and all of that, I felt, me and Jared, we felt shocked about it all. And, of course, now we've had more scans, and they've cut a much larger chunk out. I don't know whether you want to see.
Yes,
I'm wearing hats. I now wear hats.
Yes, show us if you can.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of work being done there, hasn't there, for a very good reason.
And, in fact, this bit here, it's healing amazingly now, which is great. And it looks like a massive operation. Actually, all they took out is something like that size, 2 centimetres all the way around, just to make sure that there's nothing more in the bit around it. And that's been clear, so that's really good news as well. I'll probably have immunotherapy starting in a few weeks' time. And the prognosis for people now with stage 3B melanoma is really good, so I'm really happy, and I feel very well. I've been in work nearly every day because I care about my job, and I hope it's going to be good. And I've only been talking about it. I'm nobody special, incidentally. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who would have had the same diagnosis in the last few weeks, because melanoma is on the rise. Yeah. And I just want to make sure that, if you are in doubt, check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been talking very emotionally about it, Chris. Not a way we often see politicians in tears and floods of tears. And I think it's really good. It's a really good side to see that you were affected.
Don't you dare start me off again now.
I won't. I will try not to. We've got Dr. Hillary here, actually, to help you in your campaign to make sure everybody gets out and does what Chris did. Get it checked out, don't ignore it, because it could mean the difference between things ending very badly or things going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Chris is doing a great job in raising awareness. I mean, this can happen to anybody. There are 16,000 cases of malignant melanoma diagnosed in the UK every year, and about 2,000 deaths if we don't catch it early enough. So he's had a stage 3, which means it's probably involved some of the lymph glands, and he's had an excision done. And now he's going to be treated with immunotherapy, which is kind of experimental in a way, in that we're trying to get the immune system to recognise the cancer cells and destroy them. So that's really good news. But, people are still developing more. The incidence of skin cancer is increasing. It's doubled every 10 years for the last 40 years.
And what should people look for? Because I wouldn't have thought, stupidly, you necessarily think of skin cancer on your head, under
Under hair,
hair.
yeah.
You
No, it's
think
unusual.
of exposed areas.
Absolutely,
What
you're
do
absolutely
people
right.
look for?
Most men get them on the back, most women get them on the legs, but I think we've got pictures here of a normal-looking mole, and everyone's got about, on average, about 200 moles on their body. So the one on the left there is a normal-looking mole. It's nice, symmetrical, it's got a nice clear border, uniform pigmentation. But on the right, you can see that the colour is different in different areas of the mole. It's increasing in size, it's got an irregular edge, different coloration, and that's very suspicious. Anything like that, bigger than the blunt end of a pencil, go and see your doctor straight away, don't mess around. And of course, cover up in the hottest part of the days if you're on holiday and in the sun, because it's getting sunburnt when you're young that increases the chances of developing this later on in life.
So, Chris, let's come back to you, because I know that you've said you don't want to talk about this more. It's really important. It's fantastic, as Kate was saying, because you do have a public profile, you can expose the importance of doing this. How are you feeling now, and what's your prognosis? Are you going to be back on the rugby field soon?
No, I'm not playing rugby with you, for a start, because you broke my leg last time, as I remind you every single time I see you. No, I'm fine. And anyway, I'm 57. I'm a bit old for playing rugby now. No, honestly, I feel very well. And actually, just to say, my lymph nodes are clear. All the scans have come back clear. I feel, very optimistic. That's all really good news. And I think the immunotherapy nowadays, it's just been licensed for more wider use with people on stage 3 melanoma, and that's all really good news. But there's some other things I'd just like to say. First of all, that when you go to see the doctor, take someone with you for your results, because it's really difficult to hear exactly what they're saying, because you've got all the emotions coursing through your body, and you might well be in shock. And sometimes I've even heard stories of people not going back for their next appointment because they thought they heard good news when they'd actually heard bad news. The second thing is take a book with you to write down notes, and you may have questions. You'll kick yourself afterwards if you've not asked all those questions. On the day that if you get bad news, you don't have to tell anybody. You will be in shock. You don't have to care about other people. The weird thing for me was I told lots of MPs and friends that I was getting my results at 12 because I was so blasé about it. I thought I'd be fine. And then, of course, when they didn't hear anything from me from at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, then they started ringing in a panic. And I was worrying about looking after them. But a really good friend of mine, Kath, said to me, you don't have to look after them. You and Jared can just look after yourself for the next 48 hours. So it was really important that, you do look after yourself. You don't have to worry about what everybody else thinks. And if you don't want to tell anybody, you don't have to tell anybody. Don't make big decisions at that kind of moment. Final thing is, I love the NHS. Can you imagine if at the moment, you get the first worrying sort of thing from a doctor and you had to go, well, how much is a CT scan going to be? How much is a biopsy? How much is it going to cost to do this on the back of my head? And it's not just the doctors, Dr. Hulbert who cut it out, or Dr. Martin, Mr. I think surgeons are Misters, aren't they? Mr. Hulbert and Mr. Ashworth and all of them, and the nurses. But also, actually, the receptionists and the secretaries in the hospital are so important because they're dealing with people who are sometimes quite anxious, ringing up, and you've got every right to ring up your consultant to check out whether, when your appointment's going to be. Every right. Yeah. They're not gods. They're wonderful. But the receptionists are so important in that business of managing a really complicated diary when sometimes it might be they've got to fit somebody in very urgently and somebody else has got to be moved. I have nothing but praise for all the doctors and the surgery down here and everybody else down here at the Prince Charles and the Royal Glamorgan Hospital.
Well, look, Chris, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us this morning. I know it's very emotional for you, and I know you're not going to talk about it anymore, but it will make a massive difference to a lot of people. And it's been lovely to see you looking well as well. And
yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. And this is my last interview because, and I've had other cancer patients. There's many hundreds, incidentally, in Parliament, and Tories have been really nice to me, as well as Labour colleagues.
That's weird for you.
And I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I know. Well, even people I've been very rude to across the chamber of the House of Commons. It's not the viper's nest you think sometimes. But I was just going to say, my melanoma isn't me. It doesn't define me. Cancer doesn't define anybody who's had cancer. No. It's a life-changing diagnosis, but it doesn't define you. So this is my last interview, over and out.
Well done. And do you know what? We wish you absolutely all the best. But your humanity in talking about this, I think, has done a lot for politicians, whatever their party, because they're taking a lot of stick at the moment. And it's great to hear you talk
hat.
So humanly. Lovely to
And the
speak
hats
to you.
look smart as well,
You're
Chris.
wearing the hat well.
Yeah, you're wearing the hat. Very
I
stylish.
love my hat. I've never had a hat before.
Chris, thank you very much. And just one last
Good
point.
luck.
Hillary made a really good point. Actually, as Chris was saying, take notes. You could even record the
Record
good
the
point.
consultation.
Take record
You
the
can play it back and hear every word.
and you wouldn't miss
Good
a thing.
point.
Hillary, thank you as well.